So now I want to talk about feeling like a victim, how to prevent it, how to deal with feeling like a victim. So there's a big difference between actually being victimized and victimhood. Victimhood is when we've adopted, we are a victim. Certainly, there's been many times for many people where you were victimized. You were victimized perhaps as a child by parents or teachers or others in authority or other kids bullied. Yes, many of us were victimized in many ways. I'm reading a great book, which I really want to recommend about this because it's so much about this, and it's called The Choice. It's by Edith Eve Edger, Dr. Edith Eve Edger. She is now 95 years old. She's a psychologist who has traveled all over the world speaking. But she is a survivor, one of the only survivors now of Auschwitz. And she was taken in at 16, and both her parents were killed that day when she was taken in. She and her sister did survive. But she was actually rescued like one day before she was going to die. She was like 70 pounds, back broken, brutalized for a year, absolutely brutalized. And the book is about choice. It's called The Choice. And it's about her journey in moving out of being a victim, moving out of victimhood. Obviously, she was horribly victimized, horribly victimized. She's a beautiful writer, amazing woman. And there's so much information there about moving out of seeing oneself as a victim and utilizing any horrible situation you might have gone through where you were victimized to learn and to grow, to help others, which is what she's been doing all these years. I just so admire this woman. And I've been blown away by this book. So, she helps us see over and over how we have choices, even when she was in Auschwitz. The choices that she made regarding how she saw herself, what she thought of, saved her life. And she became very good friends with Viktor Frankl, also one of my favorite books, Man's Search for Meaning. And he was much older than her, and he became her mentor in this process of surviving from Auschwitz. We see ourselves as victims when we don't realize. Now, in inner bonding terms, I mean, her process is different than inner bonding, but in inner bonding terms, where we don't realize that we have a choice of intention. And that's the real issue, that if you believe that your feelings are caused by somebody else's behavior, rather than by your own choice of intention, then you feel like a victim. And then she could have gone through her life like some survivors did, just blaming Hitler the whole time, blaming all the people who abused her, all the horrible abuses that she suffered. She could have just been blaming, and many have, and many do. I work with clients who come to me miserable and ill because they've been blaming their parents or blaming their partner or blaming God or blaming work or blaming something. And that's putting themselves in a victim state where there's no learning that happens from the situation. Whereas when you shift your intention to learning about what's loving to you, what's in your highest good, learning about your false beliefs. She had to do a lot of learning because she thought she was nothing. She thought that she was worthless. She had survivor's guilt. She had so much learning to do about her false beliefs. And she takes you on the journey of that, which is a really amazing journey. She actually ended up even being able to forgive Hitler, which blew me away. If she could forgive Hitler, we can forgive anybody. And she didn't do it for him. She did it for herself, to free herself, to claim freedom. And that's what this is about, because if you continue to see yourself as a victim, you have no freedom. You have given over to somebody else, either in the past or in the present, responsibility for who you choose to be, whether it's in your relationships, your current relationships, your past. As soon as you hand over responsibility and you're angry or you're blaming or you're withdrawn or shut down, you've put yourself in a victim state, and there's just no freedom in that. And we always have the freedom to choose who we want to be at any given moment, no matter what the situation. I remember reading about this woman who, maybe I mentioned this before, she just blew me away. Her adolescent son got shot by another adolescent. Instead of being an angry victim, she actually went to the jail and befriended the adolescent who shot her son, worked with him, and eventually brought him into her home and adopted him. I mean, talk about not being a victim. Talk about choosing who you want to be in the world. We all have that option to choose who we want to be. And if you haven't read Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, I really encourage you to do that, because he really talks about staying connected to his inner knowing, moment by moment, to save his life. And it was amazing that he survived, but he survived by not going into despair, staying connected to his inner guidance, listening to himself, trusting himself. I mean, that's such a big issue, to trust ourselves. He was able to do that in Auschwitz and other concentration camps he was in. And that's why he survived. And that's how he developed his form of therapy, which became very, very popular, logotherapy. And many of the things that I do today, I've gotten from understanding his kinds of thinking. So the book has been very impactful for me in understanding this whole thing about being a victim. It's a really low frequency. It's a really difficult feeling when you let your wounded self convince you that you don't have a choice of how to think, and you don't have a choice of how to be, that you are a victim of what somebody else is doing. Now, they might be victimizing you. Maybe you're somehow stuck somewhere where you're getting victimized. I hope not, because as an adult, you certainly have other choices. But that doesn't mean you need to see yourself as a victim. It doesn't mean you need to live in victimhood. And so the way out is to really become aware of your intention. If your intention is to protect against pain, if your intention is to try and have control over getting love and avoiding pain and feeling safe through controlling behavior, you're going to feel victimized. You are on the wrong course. That intention creates a very low frequency where you're abandoning yourself. You're not treating yourself with love and respect. Other people are likely treating you the way you're treating yourself. You're not taking responsibility for the fact that you are abandoning yourself. You are not loving yourself. You are disrespecting yourself. You are not taking care of yourself. And then you feel like a victim of the fact that other people are mirroring how you treat yourself. And very often people will treat you not always, but very often, they're going to treat you the way you treat yourself. And then you can say, see, it's not my fault. I'm just a victim of this person, and keep yourself stuck in victimhood. But we always have the free will to change our intention to loving ourselves, to opening, to connecting with a source of love and truth and comfort and guidance, and learning what it means to take loving care of ourselves in any situation. I think of Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison, tortured. And yet he never saw himself as a victim. He never lived in victimhood all that time. And then he came out to be president of his country and to actually heal with the guard who tortured him. Just amazing. I find these stories so inspiring. It's one of the reasons I do a lot of reading. I love to be inspired by people who have made that choice to truly love themselves, and how deeply empowering that is for them. Imagine being in prison for 27 years and being tortured and coming out in power. I mean, almost unimaginable that somebody has the strength, but they did. And that's so inspiring. If somebody can do that, we can do that. We're not living. None of you are 27 years in prison. You may be feeling victimized in different situations, but hopefully you're inspired to recognize that you have a choice regarding your intention to either control or to love. It comes down to that, moment by moment. We have the choice to either put the wounded self in charge, to control, avoid, protect, try and get love, avoid pain, be safe, or we have the choice to develop our loving adult, connect with our higher guidance, and to focus on what's loving to ourselves and to others. And that takes you out of victimhood and into a sense of personal power. This week's episode is brought to you by the Inner Bonding Masterclass. When you join this membership, you'll be part of a compassionate and supportive community who understands what you're going through and who will help you throughout your healing journey. The Inner Bonding membership is created to provide laser coaching for you and others in the community who may be facing the same struggles, so that you can practice the inner bonding process more effectively and apply it to your life. You also get to vote on the topic that we will focus on in our bi-monthly masterclass. This way, you and the community will always learn about and get guidance on the topic you're requesting most. Go to innerbonding.com/members to join us. You can use the code BENEFIT to get a 10% discount on your registration at checkout. Again, go to innerbonding.com/members.